In a quiet, middle-class neighborhood in the U.S., families live close together. The houses are neat, with clean lawns and friendly neighbors who greet each other but don't dig too deeply into anyone's personal life. On the surface, everything seems perfect, but behind the closed doors of some houses, secrets are being kept. In this seemingly perfect neighborhood, a shocking act of violence will soon change their lives forever. Tom Miller is at the center of this community. In his early 30s, he's a devoted family man who is well liked by everyone. Tom spends his weekends coaching his son's Little League team and volunteering for local charities. With his friendly smile and reliable nature, he has earned the trust of his neighbors. However, deep down, Tom feels restless and longs for something more in his life. Laura Davis, the new neighbor, has recently moved in next door. In her late 20s, she is charismatic and instantly grabs people's attention. Laura is beautiful and has a bright personality that makes others feel comfortable around her. As a stay-at-home mom, she often dresses casually but carries herself with a natural grace that catches Tom's eye. Her arrival sparks excitement in the neighborhood, and her friendliness quickly wins over the residents. Sarah Miller, Tom's wife, is dedicated to her family and focused on their 2 young children. In her early 30s, Sarah is warm and nurturing, often organizing playdates and community events. She takes pride in creating a loving home, but the challenges of motherhood sometimes leave her feeling overwhelmed. While she remains unaware of the growing tension between Tom and Laura, her instincts begin to sense that something is off. Tom and Laura's friendship begins quite innocently, sparked by their shared interests in gardening and community events. One sunny Saturday morning, they bump into each other while tending to their yards. They find themselves engrossed in conversation about the best plants for their climate, laughter filling the air as they exchange gardening tips. As they talk, there's an easy comfort between them, punctuated by smiles and bright exchanges. However, subtle moments hint at a deeper connection. During their conversations, Tom notices how Laura's laughter lingers in the air long after she stops speaking, and he finds himself captivated by her expressive eyes. Likewise, Laura feels a flutter in her chest each time Tom leans a little closer or brushes against her arm while reaching for the same flower. These accidental touches send electric sparks through both of them, leaving them both feeling flustered yet exhilarated. As the days pass, their interactions grow more frequent. They begin sharing coffee on the front porch, where they discuss everything from parenting challenges to their dreams and aspirations. Each meeting is filled with unspoken tension, their lingering glances and playful teasing, suggesting an attraction that neither is willing to acknowledge fully. The thrill of their friendship deepens, yet it remains on the surface, hidden under layers of laughter and light-hearted conversation. As summer rolls in, the friendship between Tom and Laura begins to evolve into something more intense. What starts as innocent coffee chats morphs into secret meetings. They arrange to meet when their spouses are busy, Tom claiming he's working late or running errands, while Laura tells Mike she's heading out for a girls' night. These stolen moments are filled with adrenaline, where the thrill of secrecy amplifies their connection. During one of these clandestine meetings, they share a moment that feels charged with emotion. Sitting closely on a park bench, their knees accidentally brush against each other. Tom's heart races as he catches Laura's eye, and for a brief moment, the world around them fades away. This simple touch sparks a wave of feelings Tom has been trying to suppress. They lean in closer, sharing secrets and laughter that feel more intimate than ever. However, Tom grapples with his internal conflict. Each moment spent with Laura feels exhilarating, but guilt creeps in as he remembers his responsibilities to Sarah and their children. At night, after spending time with Laura, he returns home to Sarah, who greets him with a warm smile and open arms. The stark contrast between his family life and the thrill of his secret romance leaves Tom feeling torn. He loves Sarah and their life together, yet he can't help but be drawn to Laura's vivacious energy. As Tom and Laura's relationship continues to develop, Sarah begins to sense that something is off. She notices Tom's distracted demeanor, the way he checks his phone more often, and how he sometimes seems lost in thought. Although he assures her everything is fine, Sarah's intuition tells her otherwise. A lingering worry takes root in her mind, and she starts to piece together the changes in his behavior, growing increasingly suspicious of his late nights and vague excuses. Meanwhile, Laura's husband, Mike Davis, remains blissfully unaware of the brewing storm. Portrayed as a caring man, Mike works long hours to support their family, often bringing homework that keeps him busy during the evenings. He loves Laura and believes she is genuinely happy in their new home. His focus on work creates a gap in their relationship, leaving Laura feeling lonely and craving connection, something she finds with Tom. While Mike is preoccupied with his job, Laura feels more isolated, making her attraction to Tom seem like an escape from her mundane life. As the tension rises, Tom finds himself in a precarious situation, balancing the thrill of his affair with the weight of his family obligations. The consequences of his choices loom overhead, setting the stage for inevitable confrontation as the truth threatens to unravel the lives of everyone involved. One afternoon, while tidying up the family room, Sarah Miller stumbles upon Tom's phone, which he carelessly left on the kitchen counter. As she picks it up to call him, a notification pops up on the screen, a message from Laura Davis. Curious, Sarah glances at the phone and sees a string of flirty texts exchanged between Tom and Laura. Her heart sinks as she reads messages that reveal a close, intimate connection, far beyond what she thought was just friendship. Overwhelmed with emotions, Sarah's hands tremble as she scrolls through the conversations and finds photos of Laura, smiling and playful, accompanied by affectionate emojis. The reality of the betrayal hits her hard, and a mix of anger, hurt, and disbelief washes over her. She knows she can't confront Tom without having solid evidence, so she decides to gather more proof before approaching him. That evening, when Tom comes home, Sarah's heart races as she prepares for the confrontation. After dinner, she takes a deep breath and reveals her findings, showing him the incriminating messages on his phone. Tom's face drains of color, and he immediately goes on the defensive. "Sarah, you don't understand," he stammers, his voice rising in pitch. "It's not what it looks like. We were just being friendly." But Sarah, fueled by betrayal, demands the truth. "Friendly? Is that what you call flirting with our neighbor's wife? How could you do this to me? To our family?" Tom's denial escalates into manipulation as he tries to twist the narrative, claiming Sarah has been neglectful and distant. "I needed someone to talk to, someone who understood me," he argues, his frustration mounting. The argument intensifies, voices raised and emotions flaring as they both lash out at each other. Sarah feels the ground beneath her shake as Tom's hurtful words cut deep, but she stands firm, determined to make him face the reality of his actions. The air is thick with tension, and both are left questioning the foundation of their relationship. Meanwhile, Laura, feeling the weight of her actions, grapples with her own guilt and confusion. After overhearing the escalating argument between Tom and Sarah, she becomes increasingly anxious. The affair that once felt exciting now seems like a dangerous trap that could ruin everything. Sitting alone in her living room, Laura reflects on the whirlwind of emotions she has experienced. She never intended for things to get this far, and now she fears losing not only Tom, but also her own sense of self. The reality of her choices weighs heavily on her, and she feels trapped in a situation she can no longer control. Realizing that the affair is jeopardizing not only her marriage to Mike, but also Tom's family, Laura makes a heart-wrenching decision. She will end the affair. But as she reaches for her phone to text Tom, doubt creeps in. Memories of their stolen moments together flood her mind. Laughter, whispered secrets, and a connection that felt real. Tom, unaware of Laura's struggle, continues to grapple with his own feelings. He knows that Sarah has discovered the truth, and he faces the reality that their life together may never be the same again. A part of him is drawn to Laura and the excitement she brings, but another part feels the weight of his responsibilities to his wife and children. Caught in this emotional crossroad, Tom's heart races as he contemplates the consequences of his choices. Will he choose the safety of his family or the thrilling allure of the affair? As tension mounts, both Tom and Laura must confront their feelings and the lives they have built, leading to a pivotal moment that will forever change their lives. On a cool autumn evening, the suburban neighborhood is wrapped in a blanket of stillness, illuminated by the soft glow of streetlights. Leaves crunch underfoot as Sarah Miller walks with purpose toward the Davis home. After weeks of suspicion and mounting evidence, she is ready to confront Laura Davis about the affair with her husband, Tom. The cool air does little to calm her racing heart. She feels a whirlwind of emotions: betrayal, anger, and a fierce determination to uncover the truth. As Sarah knocks on the door, the faint sound of a knife clinking against a cutting board echoes from within. Laura, caught off guard while preparing dinner, hesitates before opening the door. She greets Sarah with a cautious smile, instantly sensing the tension radiating from her neighbor. "Can I help you?" Laura asks, trying to sound casual, though her voice trembles slightly. Sarah steps inside, her eyes darting around the room, taking in the domestic scene: a half-prepared dinner, toys scattered on the floor. "Where's Tom?" she demands, her tone sharp and unyielding. Laura's stomach drops. She had hoped to avoid this confrontation. "He's not here right now," she replies, forcing herself to maintain eye contact, though guilt flickers in her expression. "Stop lying." Sarah's voice rises. "I know he's been coming over. I've seen the messages." Her accusations hang in the air, heavy and charged. "You think you can just come into my life and take my family?" Laura feels the walls closing in around her. The tension between them is palpable as they begin to exchange heated words. Laura insists that her friendship with Tom is innocent, but Sarah, fueled by jealousy and hurt, is relentless. "Innocent? You think this is innocent?" she shouts, her frustration spilling over. "I've watched my husband change, and it's because of you." The argument intensifies, with each woman revealing raw emotions and hidden fears. Laura tries to defend herself, feeling increasingly cornered. "You don't know anything about me," she yells, her voice breaking as she feels the weight of Sarah's accusations. "I didn't ask for any of this." Sarah's anger boils over. "You think you can just play house with my husband while I'm here taking care of our kids?" she retorts, her words laced with venom. The accusation strikes a nerve with Laura, who feels a mix of rage and fear at the thought of losing everything. As they stand face to face, the air thick with animosity, Laura's desperation mounts. Suddenly, she feels threatened. This is no longer just a confrontation. It feels like a fight for her very existence. In a moment of panic, she lunges toward the kitchen, grabbing a knife from the cutting board. The blade glints ominously in the dim light, reflecting the turmoil of the moment. "What are you doing?" Sarah gasps, her voice a mix of surprise and fear. In a split second of heightened emotion, Laura turns back, the knife shaking in her hand. Stay away from me. She screams, her voice tinged with hysteria. The once ordinary argument transforms into something darker, something primal, and without fully realizing the implications of her actions, Laura reacts. In a swift, desperate motion, the knife plunges into Sarah's side. Time seems to freeze as the reality of what Laura has done crashes down around them. Sarah's eyes widen in disbelief as she stumbles back, her hand instinctively grasping at the wound. The pain is immediate and intense, and she gasps for breath, collapsing to the floor. Laura stands frozen in shock, the knife dropping from her hand and clattering to the ground. The room falls silent, save for Sarah's labored breathing and the distant sound of a clock ticking. Blood begins to pool around Sarah's body, a stark contrast against the kitchen tiles, as Laura's mind races, overwhelmed by the horror of her actions. Just then, Tom arrives home, blissfully unaware of the nightmare unfolding next door. He enters their home through the back door, expecting to see Sarah and the kids. Instead, he is immediately struck by a wave of confusion as he notices the tension in the air. "Laura," he calls, his voice echoing through the quiet house. As he steps into the kitchen, his heart drops at the sight before him. Sarah lying on the floor, her face pale and eyes wide with shock, blood pooling around her. "What happened?" Tom rushes to Sarah's side, his voice a mix of panic and disbelief. He kneels beside her, his hands shaking as he tries to a situation. "Sarah, stay with me." Laura, still in shock, backs away from the scene, her eyes darting between Tom and Sarah. The realization of the gravity of the situation washes over her like a cold wave. "I didn't mean to. I was scared," she cries, her voice cracking as tears stream down her face. Tom's mind races. He's thrown into chaos, trying to process the horror before him. He turns to Laura, fury and confusion mixing in his expression. "What did you do?" he demands, his voice low and trembling with disbelief. "I didn't want this. I was just defending myself," Laura pleads, her hands trembling as she looks at Tom with wide eyes. In that moment, the reality of the situation sinks in for Tom. He glances back at Sarah, whose breathing is growing weaker. The weight of his own guilt settles on his shoulders. He knows that he must act quickly to protect his family, but the choices he faces are dark and twisted. Tom looks at Laura, their eyes locking in a moment of unspoken understanding. They are now entangled in a web of deception and violence, and both realize that their lives will never be the same. "Help me," Laura whispers, her voice barely audible as she takes a step toward him. Together, they scramble to clean up the scene, their hearts racing with fear and adrenaline. They frantically search for anything that could incriminate them: bloodied utensils, the knife, and signs of the struggle. Tom's mind spins as he tries to think of a plan, weighing the risks against their desperate need to cover up the murder. As they work, Tom's thoughts spiral into a dark abyss. He is now part of something he never imagined, caught between loyalty to his wife and his own guilt over the affair. They finally dispose of the evidence, their hands shaking as they try to erase the horror of that night. As they step back from the scene, an overwhelming sense of dread fills the air. They exchange a glance, both understanding the magnitude of what they've done. The facade of their lives has crumbled, and the darkness of their actions will haunt them forever. In the wake of the shocking murder, Tom and Laura find themselves trapped in a web of lies. The gravity of their actions looms over them, but the fear of losing everything keeps them bound together in a reluctant alliance. They agree to keep the incident a secret, convinced that if they can craft a solid alibi, they might escape the consequences. Tom proposes that they claim they were together at a late-night movie, a story that could easily be corroborated by the theater's ticket stubs. Laura nervously agrees, though doubts flicker in her mind. They carefully dispose of any evidence that could tie them to the crime scene, cleaning the area where the incident took place and removing any personal items that might lead back to them. However, the burden of their secret begins to weigh heavily on their relationship. Guilt gnaws at them both. Tom is haunted by the image of Sarah's face when she finds out, while Laura is consumed by the fear of being discovered. Their once easy conversations turn into tense exchanges filled with unspoken worries. Paranoia sets in as they start to notice the small things around them, the neighbors' lingering glances, the sudden change in atmosphere at community events, and the whispered conversations behind their backs. Every phone call or unexpected knock at the door sends their hearts racing. They become hyper-aware of their surroundings, convinced that someone might be watching or piecing together the truth. The strain on their relationship becomes evident. Arguments erupt over minor issues, revealing cracks in the bond they once shared. Tom begins to resent Laura for dragging him into this chaos, while Laura feels increasingly isolated and alone in her guilt. They realize that their pact to keep the secret has only deepened their isolation, and their lives are now defined by fear and anxiety. After weeks of mounting tension and suspicion, the truth finally unravels in a shocking twist. It all begins when a neighbor, who has been observing Tom and Laura's increasingly suspicious interactions, decides to install a security camera to keep an eye on their behavior. The footage captures a series of incriminating moments, intimate conversations, late-night meetings, and the fateful night of the murder. As the video makes its way around the neighborhood, it sparks outrage and disbelief among the residents. The evidence becomes undeniable, revealing Tom and Laura's affair and Laura's desperate actions that led to the tragic outcome. The police are alerted, and they quickly begin their investigation, focusing on the two of them as prime suspects. Tom and Laura, once so carefree in their secret relationship, now find themselves cornered. They are forced to confront the reality of what they've done and the havoc it has wreaked on their lives and families. The weight of their choices becomes unbearable as they face not only legal consequences, but also the moral implications of their betrayal. Tom is filled with guilt as he realizes how his actions have shattered his family's trust and the innocence of those around him. Laura, too, grapples with her role in the tragedy, understanding that her desire for excitement has led to irreversible damage. As the police close in, the pressure mounts for both Tom and Laura. In a moment of desperation, Tom makes a choice that shocks everyone. Instead of facing the music together, he decides to protect himself and his family at all costs. Tom concocts a plan to distance himself from Laura, framing the narrative to portray himself as an innocent victim caught up in a web of deceit created by Laura. This betrayal sends ripples through their once close community, leaving Sarah heartbroken and confused as she struggles to process the truth about her husband's affair. The twist leaves viewers questioning the true nature of love and betrayal. Was Tom ever truly committed to his marriage? Or did he simply use it as a facade while pursuing his desires? As the story concludes, Tom's decision has irrevocably altered the course of his life. His choice to protect himself at the expense of Laura and the truth not only reveals the depths of his betrayal, but also challenges the audience to reflect on the complexities of love, loyalty, and the devastating consequences of infidelity. The final scene leaves viewers with lingering questions about morality and the true price of betrayal, setting the stage for a thought-provoking discussion about the consequences of choices made in the name of love.